Evelyn had the opportunity to go on a free shopping spree. For the next 10 minutes, everything she put in her cart would be checked out at no cost. But instead of grabbing things she wanted for herself, she rushed to the refrigerated section and loaded up on steaks that her kids loved. Next, she grabbed various canned goods, carefully selecting each item according to her plan. Two salespeople eagerly helped her fill her cart. Finally, she picked out imported fruits that her family had never tried before. As the countdown ended, Evelyn left with a full load. However, as she stocked the freezer with all the frozen foods, her husband didn't seem happy at all. As the family gathered around the table to share the food, he sat there, inexplicably throwing the food on the floor one by one. But this behavior was something the family had grown accustomed to. Evelyn asked her husband to put the food back, but he only got more worked up. He picked up the food and tossed it out the door, then grabbed the cans from the table and threw them out too. Even so, Evelyn said nothing. She simply picked up the food from the floor and closed the fridge. Her husband hid in a corner, eating a can by himself. In fact, there was a reason he had become this way. When he and his wife first started their family, he was a promising writer and she was a singer with a heavenly voice. However, an accident robbed her husband of his beautiful singing voice. To make a living, he had to take a low-level job at a factory. Evelyn stood by him through it all. Over the years, they raised 10 children. Although life was tight, they were still relatively happy. Evelyn always managed to add new things to their home by participating in advertising slogan contests. But one day, Evelyn received a phone call. It turned out that 3 years ago, her husband had secretly mortgaged their house for $4,000. Instead of using the money to help with household expenses, he had squandered it all. If they couldn't pay back the $4,000 within 30 days, they would lose their current home, and the children would have to be sent to live with relatives. Evelyn felt like she was trapped in a vicious cycle. For so many years, she had been shouldering the burden for her husband. "Mom will always find a way." This phrase was like a curse. For the first time in her life, Evelyn cried, unable to rely on her husband at all. But fortunately, things took a turn for the better. A contest Evelyn had entered made it to the final round of judging. Winning the contest could save their family from this crisis. The judges personally came to their home for a visit. Evelyn put on a perfect performance. They said they would notify her of the results in 2 weeks, but the results never came. The family had reached the point where they had no money for food. Evelyn had no choice but to cook with expired ingredients. It wasn't until the day they were moving out that Evelyn finally received the phone call. She had beaten out 250,000 people to win the grand prize, $3,340, a car, and a pair of wristwatches. The prizes arrived just in time. Everyone was cheering. But Evelyn's second daughter cried and told her mom that things hadn't gotten better. Dad would never change. Evelyn looked at her daughter gently and told her that throughout the rest of her life,
Forgive him, Duff. Forgive him so that you can embrace this truly remarkable day.
Evelyn would still be faced with an alcoholic, irritable, and weak husband, but she never demanded that her husband change. Her only request to him was, "When I'm doing my own thing, please don't interfere." It's heartening that in the end, her husband finally had a pang of conscience. When he passed away, he left Evelyn a pension. In her later years, Evelyn no longer had to worry about money. Evelyn's children didn't turn out bad despite these experiences. They all had their own lives. The reason Evelyn had this kind of luck wasn't because luck chose her, but because she chose to embrace luck with forgiveness and optimism.